Welcome back to you, all my friends. I'm Mitch, and this is the Final Exodus. Today, what I'm talking about is the medium is the message. Do you know what that means? Have you ever heard that before? I've asked a lot of people, and I'm surprised how many people have never heard that. The medium is the message? Well, yes. Have you ever heard it said that your actions speak louder than your words? In other words, your actions and your words should unify. And some people will say, do what I say, not what I do, because we're separating the medium from the message. Those two should harmonize. Today, I'm looking at the Super Bowl and the medium that took place at halftime, the Super Bowl halftime show. I have two parts to this message today, so I hope that you'll watch both parts all the way to the end. I'm going to try to be brief, and I think the impact on your life will be great. So, what was the message of the Super Bowl halftime show in 2020? Do you know? That caught my eye because leading up to the Super Bowl, I heard advertisements or interviews that they were going to produce a message and they were going to give a message at the Super Bowl halftime show. And I thought, oh, there's a message. So I wanted to watch it. Well, it was kind of a crazy house, as it usually is for something like that. And so it was kind of hard to pay attention to the point, what was the message? So I rewatched it and I learned that the message was the empowerment of women, respect of women throughout the world. So I ask you, is this the medium to accomplish that message? And just a warning here, some of this is a little bit risque, I think, for some of my audience. You may not even want to watch the next part, I don't know. But at this point, I'm going to show you a few visuals that help me show you what their intention was in the message. Here we have the symbol, the female symbol right here, and these butterfly looking little symbols down here. And so this empowerment of women to be respected throughout the earth. We'll get back to the beginning here. So they had men dressed in these cage outfits here, and they were dancing, and they had many of these men dancing, and she was standing on top of their shoulders and rising above them. And then she even went higher. She got on a dance pole and went up the pole and did something like a crucifixion move at the top of the pole as they laid before the pole. And I thought that was interesting. And then they had these children. They weren't just children, they were little girls that were in cages, representing the caging of the female spirit throughout time. And this is her daughter, J-Lo's daughter, who sang "Let's Get Loud." And they broke out of the cages and they spoke of their victory in growing up in a world with respect for all women. And then she was on top of what looks like the One World Freedom Tower. You can look that up and see if that's not a representation of that, as if she's sitting on top of the world. And then we have these other views that have a lot of pole dancing. So the women actually were dancing on poles and very scantily clad. Obviously, everybody knows that, which is maybe an entertainment factor or an artist's expression. But the message of the respect of women in this medium, you have to ask yourself, is this actually accomplishing for them the desired effect that they're looking for? Are they getting the respect from this expression that they're desiring? Now, if this was just done for fun, maybe there would be less of an issue, but there were a lot of other issues involved with this performance in the fact that many families were gathered together as well. So when you think of yourself in the business world as a woman, and you're trying to earn the respect of your peers, is this the type of message medium that you want? Are these people employed with your value system to accomplish that message? And those little girls that were in cages, that's what these cages are right here under the female symbol. So that's what that is. I just thought that was rather interesting, that this medium was offered as the means to convey that message. So now I'm going to be moving to part 2 of this, and it's going to connect. I'm going to connect 2 things, and I'm in a video series. If you're new to this channel, I'm in a video series over what I've been learning this year. But before I get to that, I want to ask you all, what have you been learning this year? And can you actually write it down? What's the best thing you've learned this year? I'm finding that's really hard to do, and I've chosen this method to express it, and hopefully what I'm about to say will kind of hit you like, wow, you've been learning that? This is what I've been learning. So I've been connecting with the fact that you are spiritual and I am spiritual. As people, we're spiritual and we are embodied. We have bodies. The bodies that we have hold our spirits, but nevertheless, we still are spiritual. So on a day that maybe our body expires, our spirit is not there in the casket, it moves on. We call it passing. So the spirit moves on. And when the spirit separates from the body, that's what death is a separation, the spirit from the body. But that spirit that's in each one of us is really who we are. We're human spirits in a physical body. And I've been learning that our natural ability is to communicate through natural means. We have natural ability to communicate. But we're not really taught that we have spiritual abilities to communicate. Have you ever thought about that? The natural man has natural abilities to communicate, but a spiritual person has more. So what does it mean to communicate spiritually? What is spiritual communication? Well, that's what I've been learning. Spiritual communication. Spiritual communication is a message that is spiritual. It is an expression of spirituality, and it's received with spiritual eyes and spiritual ears. What does that mean? Well, this is something that many of us are aware of, but maybe not as aware as we think we are, that there is a Holy Spirit that interacts with our life on a daily basis, no matter who we are. The Holy Spirit is right there. It's the spirit of the one who made you. And then there are the spirits of angels, and then there are fallen spirits, the demonic spiritual realm. So this life that we live on a physical plane has a spiritual plane, and it's just as real as our physical plane, but we're not necessarily always aware of it, even though we know that it's there. So what is spiritual communication? Well, I'm discerning that spiritual communication is not intellectual communication. It's not theological communication. It's not apologetic communication. It's not just a mere intellectual apologetics about theology. It's not just a belief system. Not to say that those things don't exist in spiritual communication, but spiritual communication involves more than that, much, much more than that. So when you think about the medium being the message for spiritual communication, it's important to realize that spiritual communication is actually a relational message. A spiritual message is a relational message. The book of the scriptures, the Bible, is a spiritual book with spiritual words about a spiritual subject. And the main emphasis of that subject is relational. It's a relational communication. So spiritual communication is a relational communication between two spirits. And, well, I have a lot to say about that. I mean, I don't even know where to go with that. But the medium is the message. The medium is the message. And our actions speak louder than our words. So if we were to love the Lord with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love our neighbor as ourself, that would be a medium for communicating what love is. So I want to ask you this question. Let's go back here and look at this. Does this medium communicate love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself? Is this the medium for relationships? Is this a relational medium? Or are all the people sitting side by side in rows, one in front of the other, with one person talking and everybody else listening? Is this the best medium? Now here, I'm not criticizing this experience at all. Not at all. I'm not even trying to do that. That's not my point. That's not at all the point of this video. Nor am I trying to criticize the women who gave the Super Bowl halftime show. That's not my point. My point is not even that the medium is the message. Here's my point. Spiritual communication exists on a spiritual plane. How do you communicate a spiritual plane to a physical world? If you're trying to raise physical children in a material world to be spiritual, have you considered the medium? Because for all my years, I don't think anybody has. And so now, after all these years, I'm just waking up to a new reality about the spiritual realm. And also, I want to give you guys YouTube videos, but is that a medium that will best communicate this message? Am I really getting it done, or am I just feeding you with a bunch of facts? Good questions, huh? Are you appreciating that? So in the last year, I learned this verse, 1 Corinthians 14:1. It's probably one of the best things I've ever learned. Paul says after the love chapter, so he writes the whole love chapter, chapter 13 of 1 Corinthians. He talks about love. This is read at many weddings. And then he finishes it by starting the 14th chapter and saying, pursue love. So he throws a big old hoop right around the whole love chapter. He says, pursue love. Yet, desire earnestly spiritual. The word gifts is added by the translators. It's italicized, so you know it's not in the original manuscript. Desire earnestly spiritual, but especially that you may see as God sees. That's what it means to prophesy. Are you waking up? Are your spiritual eyes getting better? Are you communicating spiritually to your friends and family, to your children, to your wife, to your husband? I call these subjects of wonder. These are subjects of wonder for our households. Keep thinking about that, and I'd really appreciate it if you'd write me and tell me what you're learning. God bless you. I pray for you. I'll see you soon.